Yeah.
Hmm. Good morning, friends.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay.
I'm not getting any audio.
Let me see if I can help with that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone now since we do have a larger group, but we will be joined in a moment by a very special guest. Well, Dr. Weber is going to be joining us today. If you can let me know if there's still audio issues, if you can let me know in the chat, that would be super. Thanks so much. We're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning.
Oh, you'll have to unmute him, I think.
Oh, sorry about that. Thank you.
Oh, I don't know if it was time for him to come on, but.
Hello there. Good morning.
Hi, Dr. Weber. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for being here today. Friends, we would love to introduce you to Dr. Weber. Just a very brief bio here. He is the Chief Science and Technology Officer at ENGIE in Paris. He's also the Josie Centennial Professor in Energy Resources at UT Austin, and so much to do with Watt Watchers. So I will let you take the stage, Dr. Weber. We're so glad you're here.
Great, thank you so much. And I'll just take a minute because I don't want to get in the way of the training, but just want to say that we really appreciate all the partnership we have with some key people on the production side, with Disco Learning Media and with CPS Energy and San Antonio Area Foundation and Itron and the University of Texas and the State Energy Conservation Office. It took a lot of people to really come together along with KLRN to create and distribute educational materials around energy and conservation and sustainability. We care a lot about this topic. I care a lot about this personally. It's the basis for my research and teaching at the university and also at the company in Paris where I work. So I got two hats with the University of Texas and in Paris. And it's really core to my philosophy and what we believe is important. And we're working to get content and materials online really for almost a decade. And now all of a sudden, online streaming, accessible, interactive materials are more valuable than ever because of the situation with so much homeschooling and shelter in place. So all of a sudden the audience for what we're doing is bigger than ever, which I think is a unique opportunity for us to be helpful, not only for energy and conservation, but for the pandemic where people are looking for materials now they have access to them. So I think it's great, and I won't stay in the way of the training. I just want to say hello to everybody and appreciate all the partnership. We can't do it alone. It takes a village and it takes a team. And we're pleased that so many people are finding the materials now and finding a way to use them for their use in schools, but also at homes. And one thing I'll comment is energy use is changing right now. That the pandemic is scary, it's difficulty, it's a lot difficult for people, it creates uncertainty. We will get through this. We know a lot of people who've been sick and are healthy. It turns out I had coronavirus a couple months ago and I now have the antibodies, so I'm healthy. So we'll get through this. It will be hard on society. We will know people who will suffer, but we'll be fine. In the meanwhile, we're going to change a lot of rhythms and habits in our life, including working and schooling from home. And that means our energy use will change. Our energy use home will go up in our water use and our food use and everything else, but our energy consumption in our offices and schools will go down. So there's a shift in how we're consuming. And that might mean our energy bills will be higher, which could be a strain for a lot of families. So learning more about ways to conserve our home will be really important. Getting smarter about our energy use at home will be helpful, not only from the educational perspective, but from keeping our utility bills manageable. So we're hopeful that the online materials will be helpful for achieving those savings in utility bills, but also improving energy and environmental literacy for everyone. And again, thanks to all the partners with Itron and San Antonio Area Foundation and CPS and SECO and KLRN. We really appreciate that. And I see Juan from Disco Learning Media is there as well. So I'll stop there unless there are any questions, but I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, and we hope that this is helpful and impactful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Weber. We really appreciate you being here. And as you mentioned, it is definitely a huge team that has made this come together. Thank you very much. And especially on Earth Day too. Thank you for being here.
The 50th Earth Day. This is a big day, right? So what a coincidence to have all these things come together. And I haven't figured out exactly what I'll do to celebrate Earth Day, but I'm doing a lot of informational webinars. We'll try to get outside some later. I'm actually in Austin right now. I'm in Texas. Normally I'm in Paris, but we evacuated about 6 weeks ago to ride out the pandemic here in Texas, close to family. And it's I'd rather be in Texas than Paris right now. Although Paris is lovely, right now it's not really the same kind of situation. So you might see Texas flowers behind me in our garden.
Well, that's a nice thing to see.
Great. So I'll go quiet now. I'll mute my camera and the microphone, but I'll follow the chat in case there are any questions for me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and get started on our webinar here momentarily. Here we go.
And then for anybody just joining us, if you wouldn't mind, please putting yourself on mute. That would be awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. And as we mentioned earlier, if you're just joining us, if you haven't had the opportunity to complete the pre-survey or welcome survey, if you could please go ahead and do that. It's just a very quick survey to let us know a little bit about more about you and what you're looking for in the trainings today. So if you could complete that, there is a link in the chat feature. Welcome everybody to Watt Watchers of Texas. We are doing this because Texas is too good to waste. So our funders are foundationally SECO, State Energy Conservation Office, the U.S. Department of Energy, and we have sponsorship from Itron and CPS Energy, and we are in partnership with Disco Learning Media, the University of Texas at Austin, the National Wildlife Foundation, and KLRN. We are so glad you're here. So here are some Texas bluebonnets for us. And we just want to welcome you today. So our main site here is wattwatchers.com, and we'll see our friendly characters on the right here, Lil, Tex, and Anne. Just for being here today, you're showing that you are invested in the idea of smart energy and energy efficiency. And so we want to take a look at our main site here for Watt Watchers. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. We will be sending out a link to these slides as well so that you'll have those available. And all of the blue underlined words are active links that you can follow after you receive the slides as well. So here's just the main page I'd like to go through with you and let you know about the energy education programs for Texas students. So we've got a lot here. I also want to point out quickly that everything is available in English and in Spanish, the entire website and all of the activities and lessons. So there's a new feature that we'll be going over shortly called Watt Watchers at Home. We're gonna learn all about that. We're going to learn about the program, what the patrol is. Initially, we did want to go into schools and teach more about the Student Patrols program, which is very helpful in maintaining energy efficiency and saving energy, not wasting it in schools. Being now that we're at home, we're learning how we can take these wonderful ideas and utilize them at home. That's also been highlighted here in the at home section. There are activities, resources, including a wonderfully comprehensive glossary and contact information, as well as a blog. We're going to head on back to the slides, but we're going to come back over here very soon. So I wanted to talk with you guys about the activities. There are activities that are divided into 6 categories, each labeled with these icons. There's electricity, water, cooling and heating, materials, transportation, and food. One of the things that interested me when I first learned about this is it's an amazing program, but I was surprised to see food on the list. I thought, well, how does that connect outside of what we're learning about with using food for energy? Well, when we think about it, there is a lot of food that can go to waste unintentionally often. And so there are ideas for how to avoid food waste and to be cognizant of the fact that there are what are called food deserts, even here in Texas. So it's really fascinating, and I encourage you to look more deeply into that when you're exploring the website. There are activities for children between the ages of kindergarten to 12th grade. And a lot of this, as I was looking through it, I thought, oh my goodness, this would have been amazing had I been in high school now. It would be just amazing to look at these topics and find out more information for research projects. I definitely encourage you to check that out after we're done today. So we can search for the activities by topic or by grade level. And across all subject areas and grade levels, you can find a variety of hands-on activities that require only a few common household materials, if any at all. Some of them are based on being able to go to a link and find extra resources as well. A lot of great information there. So we're going to head on over there. I do see that we have some friends in the waiting room, so I'm going to go ahead and just admit everyone here. And there we go. All right. Thank you, friends. Okay. So all of these are free, and they are amazing. So we can see that we have the activities labeled by their topic. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at that really quickly.
Rachel, can you just go ahead and mute all? And I think that'll.
Thank
There
you.
you go. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So if you're looking for classroom activities focused on energy consumption that includes actionable ways to teach students about saving energy at your school, you've come to the right place. Again, school right now is taking place at home, but a lot of these activities are very, very flexible to be used in the home as well. So let's take a look at what there are. So let's take a look at these electricity activities. And as you see here, if you search by topic, it will give you a lot more information, and also open it up to activities for older grade levels and for younger grade levels as well. So we have investigating energy in Texas, finding biomass resources, solar panels, how hot is it underground? So we're talking about geothermal resources with that one, where the wind blows, mining for coal, the history of science, just a lot of really, really amazing categories here. And I received one question this morning from a math teacher, and I thought this was great. Wanting to know, do we have any math activities? Oh yes, there are a bunch, and they're really integrated into a type of a topic that lends itself for discussion, and language arts, scientific research. There's a lot here that you can definitely pull from. So if you wanted to read more on, let's say, modeling population growth, you just click read here. And the wonderful thing is, to all of my fellow educators, I have a background in education myself. I've taught kindergarten through 12th grade, mostly in special education, and finding TEKS can sometimes be quite difficult. Sometimes you can find a wonderful activity and say, oh, this is great, my students love it, this is exactly what I want to teach. And now I have to figure out how I justify teaching this in my classroom. Here, everything has been handled for you. So thank you very much to the team who put that together. This is amazing. The TEKS are all listed down here. That's very helpful. Everything is done already for you. I see we have some friends in our waiting room, so I'm going to go ahead and admit them. And here we go. All right. Thank you, friends. So it's divided up into, oops. different categories here. The problem statement, the problem deliverables, and the resources. You can see here we have a graph for them to be able to refer to. And then there are links to where more information can be found on the topic. So here in this section, we also have a population growth graph that we can download. And this is one of many wonderful activities that are available here. Water activities, student activities about materials, cooling and heating. So let's just go ahead and take a quick look at each of these categories so that we can learn a little bit more about them and how to utilize these resources with our students online, with our own children at home. It's really open to a lot of possibilities. So here we have things that we could even do at home, right? This is a great one for since everyone is at home. We're becoming more aware, I think, of how much energy we're using, how much water we're using, and what we can cut back on if we need to. So we know that it takes energy to run water, and the water is a precious resource that not everybody in the world has access to, at least as far as clean water. Water is a precious resource, and wasting it not only wastes water, but energy too. And reducing water waste saves water, energy, and money. So let's take a look at this one. This one looks like it's very open to being used at home as well. So you can see here the grade level that it's geared toward is 4th and 5th grade. Theme, at home and water. And we're going to take a look at that. So saving water can be easier than we think. The time can vary based on the activity for this. Time can vary based on the activity and how it's being done at home. But the materials and supplies, as we can see, is a shower and a 5-gallon or 1-gallon bucket, a stopwatch and a notebook, and a paper for filing or paper for collecting data. So as we can tell, there aren't materials that we need to go out and buy for this. These are things that we commonly have at home. And it lets us know that we can measure the amount of flow through the shower head, and it can, we can calculate how many minutes it takes to fill the bucket. Again, it's open to being used with a 1-gallon or 5-gallon or smaller buckets, and it allows for, again, that use of math in our lesson. About materials, let's go ahead and head over there. Friends, if you're just joining us, I want to remind you, please, if you can head on over to the chat button and check for the link for the pre-survey. That was within the first message that I posted, so it should be way at the top. And I know Miss Melissa Galvan also posted it for us. Thank you, Melissa. It is in the chat button, so if you haven't had a chance to complete the pre-survey or welcome survey yet, if you could please do that, that will help us to best serve you. Thanks so much. So here with materials, we're being reminded of the fact that each and every material that we touch requires energy at every stage of its life cycle. In order for them to get to you, they have to be made first, then transported to you, and refined, molded, repackaged before being filled with whatever it is that they're carrying. So these are things that I found to be especially interesting, because it's kind of second nature. We go to buy something and we don't think about the fact, or I didn't necessarily think about the fact that this has been packaged in something, and whatever it was packaged in, it took time and resources and chemicals to make that package. So this is a fun one. They're all fun, really. And I mean, so open to so many different grade levels too. Let's check out the hunt for recycling. I think this is something we can all do well with, especially being that we are at home now. So we see this is 4th grade and also kindergarten. This could really be open for everybody, right? but aligned to the TEKS. Here's the grade level, excuse me. So we want to discuss that one of the ways to reduce overall landfill waste is to remove materials from the waste stream by recycling. This could take between 30 minutes and an hour. We can look for things that are recyclable, such as metal. In the category of metal, we would find aluminum cans, aluminum foil, bakeware. My mom was wonderful about washing and recycling foil, and that can be recycled, so that's good to know. Steel cans, paper, including corrugated cardboard, and of course magazines, office paper, direct mail, some of those big stacks of coupons I might use, those are recyclable. Glass, clear glass, green glass, brown glass, plastic, batteries, and bulbs. So not all of these things might be available to put in our big blue recycle bin if we're here in San Antonio, but there are facilities that can recycle that for us. So some of the materials you might find at home, and some you may not find at all, but it's good to know what can be recycled, what can't be recycled, and to do a research project as a team on that, and they can even make a collage of recyclables by downloading this. So a lot to work with here, a lot of different options. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me in the chat box, and I'll be glad to answer them as best I can. So this is for materials. And so far we've seen electricity, water, materials. Let's check on cooling and heating. Living here in Texas, we know all about cooling. Heating's not so much of an issue. It's pretty warm most of the year, but cooling is very important. And of course, heating is good, it does get cold here as well. So just take a look at all of the different activities that are available here. The history of air conditioning, that one was really interesting. Historical heating and cooling. Does anybody know what that is? Want to answer in the chat feature, you're more than welcome to. So we can take a look at energy conservation versus energy efficiency if you'd like to. We can take a look at that. So you can see there's a wide variety of activities that are available in both English and Spanish. And I'm sorry I haven't gone over that just yet. A wide variety of activities, all of which are available in English and Spanish. So you can see here that this is geared for the grade levels of 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. The theme is cooling and heating, but it also does fit into the category of electricity, food, materials, transportation, and water. And the objective here is for the student to create a definition for energy conservation and energy efficiency based on discussion with classmates and input from the teacher. So you see here we have a worksheet that we can download and use there. So we want to take a look at this and see, this would be something to print out. Energy conservation, energy efficiency. So what would be the difference? Not driving to the video store so you can save gas, combining errands to save gas, so on and so forth. And then being able to check your work with your classmates or your parents or your siblings. Definitely there's a lot here to be able to look through and get ideas from. There's so much here. Teaching about transportation. So this obviously, it goes beyond carpooling, although that's something that's really important to remember. And I know being that we are physically distancing right now, it's there's still things important to know, and as things eventually get better, we can possibly know how to make those better choices and encourage others to make those good choices as well. This I thought was incredibly interesting, the transportation of bottled water, and how there's a wonderful documentary from Dr. Weber and Mr. Juan Garcia that is called Thirst for Power. Definitely recommend that. It really discusses in detail the process of how water is involved in just about everything, and we have to be very careful about how we use it because so much of it can be wasted, and that's not nearly enough of a description to explain that, but did want to go ahead and message it as well. Thank you. I'm so glad. Thank you for sharing your comment. Thank you, Pam. It is an amazing site. Emissions. So I'm sure we've all noticed in the news that many cities, because we've all been physically distancing and because we haven't been on the road so much, even places like Los Angeles and New Delhi are very much clearer. The wildlife is returning. It's pretty impactful. Just our absence from the roadways for the most part. Here's something that kind of goes along with that. Graphing emissions. This would be for about 6th grade level, the theme of which would be transportation. And just to give you an overview, I'm going to read this here. It says, just as each mode of transportation can carry a different number of passengers, each mode can go a certain distance and requires different energy from fuel, right? So if we're looking at a small couple passenger car, that's going to be very different, of course, from an 18-wheeler. Whether light rail trains, there we go, running on electricity or private car running on unleaded gasoline, each mode of transportation has a different energy use and carbon intensity. So it's really interesting. We're going to go ahead and look here too. This has already been done for us to take a look at. So motor coach, what the carbon dioxide and gallons would look like here: vanpool, heavy rail, commuter rail, and on. So there's quite a few different options here. And then 4 types of charts that are presented for reference. And then the TEECs as they align. So it's just really, really comprehensive, and it's a wonderful program. Sorry. Thank you. Just had a few new friends join us. So glad you guys are here. Welcome. A quick reminder, if you haven't had a chance to complete the pre-survey or welcome survey, it is in the chat feature. It's going to be in several places. Miss Melissa Calvan has recently posted it as well. Thank you, Melissa. And at the beginning of the lesson as well, beginning of the webinar as well, it's at the very top of the chat discussion. So if you could please highlight that link and put it in a separate browser and complete that for us, that'll help us to best serve you. Thank you so much. The last one I wanted to talk with you about here, just in this particular set of activities, because there are more. It's wonderful. This is just a treasure trove of activities, and it's really enlightening, the information that's here. Teaching students about food. I love to cook, and this was interesting to me for a lot of reasons, and it was really eye-opening to see how energy and food are related. So at its basic level, food is a form of energy. Our bodies convert chemical energy stored in food to kinetic energy through a series of complex physical and chemical processes. In turn, this kinetic energy powers our muscles and lets us move. Beyond food, though, agricultural operations, processing, packaging, transporting, refrigerating, and preparing food all require energy. All of that energy goes somewhere, and only some of it is used. The rest is waste. As a result, one of the ways to save energy is to save food waste and other energy waste in the food system from the fields to your plate. Wonderfully put. I love that. It is, so I think it's especially timely right now. So I want to show you guys a few of these activities. Looking at food labels, that's one that we may be familiar with. Making a food diary and a daily menu. Okay, so before everything happened, just a little fun tidbit I'm going to share with you. Before everything happened with COVID-19, whenever we would go to the grocery store, we would bring a list with us and honestly rarely stick to it because there was something that was on display and I would think, oh, that's cool. I want to try that. Or, oh, this looks interesting. Let's do that. And then we wind up getting really more than what we needed. And I just feel terrible admitting this, but it's true. There were times that some of that went to waste. And I feel guilty because there's no need to be wasting food. So many people don't have enough. So now I think the current situation that we're in to some degree has kind of forced us to keep, to stick to a list and use what we've got. And that's important. So defining a calorie, the activities here really run the gamut of what they're teaching here. The energy density of foods, and then we have food desert. So let's take a look at that. This is a little sad to look through, but it's very important and it's something that everybody should know about. A food desert. Here we go. So the USDA defines food deserts as areas of the country without any fresh fruit, vegetables, or other whole foods. For the past several decades, the middle class migrated from, to the suburbs from the city centers, taking their grocery stores with them, leaving only convenience stores. That's one of the reasons. I have a cousin that lives in Brooklyn, and she was telling me, you know, we do have these small stores that are around the corner from us, but you know, you're not going to really find fresh fruit or vegetables or things like that. So this is exploring that a little bit more in depth, and specifically in this one in Texas. So we're going to compare the regions, and you can load the Food Access Research Atlas. It's eye-opening.
Great. There's a quick question, and I wanted to ask, Patricia Duarte asked if we can search the lessons by the TEAC standard.
Oh, that's a great question. I'm going to find out and get back to you. Patricia, I don't know the answer to that.
And I did send her a message back, just kind of saying that we're in the process of uploading all of these to PBS Learning Media. And I know that is a capability on the Learning Media site, but Rachel can get a question or try to get an answer to your question for this particular site right now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for letting me know, and thanks for the great question. That is definitely important. And as Ms. Melissa was saying, it is a capability on PBS Learning Media, and we're in the process of uploading these lessons to PBS Learning Media. And since it's such a wonderful comprehensive list, it's going to be just a little bit of time before they're all up and ready to go, but we are currently in the process of it, and the folks over at PBS Learning Media are very excited about these activities being part of what we offer. Thank you. So those are just a sample of the many activities that we have, and there's more. So the entire website, as we mentioned before, including all of the resources and activities, is available in both English and Spanish. The entire website, the blog, the activities, the student patrols, the resources, everything. So we're going to take a look at a few specific activities. These would be ones for elementary school students. This is probably our most popular one. Would you agree, Melissa? I love it. We did this at a training in February, and there were some children that were available to join us that came with their mom, who is an educator, and they had a blast. So this is something that's really neat. So as you can see, the grade levels that this connects to is pretty wide. It's all of elementary school. My son is going to be entering 6th grade next school year. He's fascinated by this, so it's not really within that, limited to that time frame. But again, you can do this at home and with water. So If you guys are Lego enthusiasts like myself, and not just because I have a kid, but because Legos are awesome, you would have a lot of fun doing this. So basically, students work in groups. So if you have a household with siblings, this would be a great activity for them. If you want to do this with your children, on their own, absolutely, this is something that you can work on together. But we're working in groups to control the flow of water with man-made constructions. Instead of using large-scale masonry and cement, you can complete this activity with your students using interlocking building blocks, such as Lego. I love that you guys included this here too. Due to the risk of spills, you may want to consider completing this activity outside. That's a good point. The bathtub is also an option too. So that's a good one as well. So you can learn and discuss what reservoirs, channels, canals, and other structures are, and then get to work building them with the Lego or the building blocks, excuse me, and the water. So the extension to that would be to ask them, ask the kiddos to describe what environmental conditions would create conditions similar to those they created by pouring water. So could that be a flood? Could that be a heavy rainstorm? Could that be even something, like a tsunami? What would be indicated there by what they're working on? So it's really, really neat stuff. We're going to head on back to our slides. For middle school students, this is wonderful, Mr. Nikola Tesla. I love that he was chosen as the thumbnail for this. What a neat person. So you can see here, the grade levels are for upper elementary and middle school. The theme is electricity. And the objective is for students to connect the contributions of scientists in the field of electricity to concepts that they're learning in class. So again, that may be happening through distance learning, that may be homeschooling. I know learning right now is taking on a lot of different forms and how it's done. So you can do that through research as well. So we want to know about the contributions of Thomas Edison and Benjamin Franklin as they relate to electricity, but how about those contributions of Lewis Howard Latimer? So we're going to learn a little bit more about who they are, what they did, what their life was like. And here's a list of scientists who were instrumental in the field of electricity. Look at this list. That is very comprehensive. So we have a lot of people that we can research and learn more about. You could make a who's who foldables. There's instructions for how to do this right here. And we could even create a timeline, starting with the earliest birth date of one of the scientists and going through to the present. So that would be a neat thing to hang up and kind of discuss and learn more about and add to as you learn about more scientists. It offers ideas for discussion. And if there are any patterns that they've noticed with the scientists. It's really neat stuff. Head on back to our slides here. And here's another activity that we've highlighted, for high schoolers working through food deserts. So food deserts are not only found in Texas, they are throughout the country in different areas. So you can actually see maps of that and how people are affected. The time that would be taken on this is 2 to 3 hours. This could be, I think this is very much open to allowing itself to be used for an ongoing research project. So some of our older students, maybe some that are about ready to go to college, this might be something for them to look at seriously if this is something that they're interested in learning more about. This is really a wonderful activity. It's very eye-opening. So starting with, for students to take a look and be able to develop their own definition of the term food desert based on academic literature, contemporary discourse, and their own experiences. We want to then encourage them to evaluate the article exploring food resources linked to the resources section and other reputable sources. So when we look at food stores that are available, we want to consider convenience stores, delis, farmers markets, supermarkets, fast food restaurants, and other restaurants, and what the accessibility looks like. Even now, in the current conditions, this would be something that is especially interesting to discuss and see how different businesses are are open to providing food for people in need. So there are resources here where we can see the Food Access Research Atlas. Is your community a food desert? Urban issues. So it's really interesting to look through. As I was looking through this, like I said, it was really eye-opening because I mean, we live here in San Antonio. It's not hard to find a place to shop, but there are places even not far from here that are part of a food desert. So it's really a very timely and important message. So there's an energy education resources section where you can find and print resources as well as look up terms in the glossary. I'm going to head on over there so we can take a look at that. There's a teacher's guide, which is really handy, especially as we transition back into schools. I know we don't know what that's going to look like just yet, but or when it's going to happen, but it is a very helpful resource to have. A glossary of terms, and then all of the downloads that are available. So there's a lot there to work with. The glossary of terms also includes photos for reference, so it's really helpful. Again, this is also all available in English and Spanish. You can access the Spanish glossary of terms by clicking up here on Español. Pretty neat, huh? Okay, I see that we have some friends joining us. Here we go. All right.
As I guess, as teachers are trying to find out what lessons, how they can line up with their lesson plans, is there a search feature that they could use? For instance, looking for an activity dealing with linear functions. Okay, I think Juan is just responding.
Oh, thanks, Juan. That's a good question.
Awesome, thank you, Juan, for answering that. So he said that the search feature on Watt Watchers is live and active, so you can search by the TEKS by typing it into that search box.
Excellent, thank you. Here's some additional resources that we can look at as well. Smart Energy Education, Eco Schools USA, the National Energy Education Development Project, Energy Kids, and of course PBS Learning Media, where these will soon reside as well. Let's take a look at Smart Energy Education here. And I see that we have a couple more friends waiting to join us. Oh, okay, we're joining. Okay. And friends, if you are just recently joining us, a quick reminder that we do have a welcome survey, or pre-survey rather. If you could please highlight that link, it is in the chat box. I know that Miss Melissa had put it out there for us just recently. Thank you, Melissa. And it's also at the very, very top of the chat conversation. So if you could please fill that out for us, that would be greatly appreciated. And shortly, we will also be sending you a post test if you could complete that for us as well so that we can best serve you. That will be great. Thank you so much. So here's a resource for educational programs and interactive learning materials for students, educators, and industry professionals and communities around the world. Smart Energy Education. Resourcefulness, you can find this collection on PBS Learning Media. Watt Watchers. And free access to Energy 101 through June 30th of this year. Again, there are additional resources here, including the Thirst for Power documentary that we were mentioning earlier. It's really amazing. It's a documentary that has a lot of good information about water usage. And I encourage you to check that out. So there is a new feature, which I know that we discussed just briefly, Watt Watchers at Home. So being that we are at home and we're looking for ways to save energy and to learn and to teach and to grow, this is excellent. So let's take a look at that. So sometimes when we're at home, we're finding activities that can't really be done inside the house, right? So we are going to head on over here and take a look at what that looks like. Watt Watchers at home, you can track down the Wasters gang at your house. So Lil, Tex, and Ann have foils, and those foils are the villains. Those are the Wasters gang. Those are the ones that leave water running and leave the lights on and just in general are being wasteful with electricity. So Lil, Tex, and Ann help to round them up. And the Student Patrol program is based largely on that and how we can just make simple changes to make a big impact and save electricity and conserve energy and be more efficient. Oops, excuse me. How to fight the Wasters gang at home. So Lil, Tex, and Ann are going to show us that even when they're not patrolling at school, the Watt Watchers are always on the lookout for the Wasters gang, and some of Lil, Tex, and Ann's favorite tips on how to save energy at home are there as well. So that can be replacing your light bulbs with more energy efficient light bulbs, washing only full loads of dishes and clothes. So things that are pretty simple changes to make that can overall have a big impact on how much energy we're saving. We also want to direct you to Power Trip, the Story of Energy. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it is premiering today. Is that correct?
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Hi, Juan.
Hi, everyone. This is Juan Garcia with Disco Learning Media. And so officially, the show launched yesterday, and I believe if you are in the greater San Antonio area, KLRN will be airing it this Sunday. So I encourage everyone who would like to watch the program to follow the link that Rachel has provided here, and you can actually set it for your own PBS station in your neck of the woods.
That's wonderful. We're very excited about this. Would you like to share a little bit about Power Trip?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So Power Trip is really the story of energy over place and time, rather than looking at energy through the lens of specific fuels like natural gas and oil, which is traditionally how we look at energy. We're actually looking at it more about, well, how did we get to where we are today, starting in ancient times and moving up to today? So for instance, the first episode of Water, we traveled all over the world. We looked at ancient aqueducts and how we're still using the same technology, which is gravity, in order to treat water that we're using in our homes today. So the documentary really shines a light on what we need to do to be thinking about conservation and sustainability, and talks a little bit about what we think the future of energy will be. But more than anything, what we wanted to do is educate people on how all over the world we're experiencing the same phenomenons. It doesn't matter if you're in a large city or in a small community. We all need to be thoughtful about our resources. And what a time to be talking about that, especially on the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, right?
Exactly. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Juan. Thank you for sharing that with us. We do have a short preview here, a 30-second preview. So let's take a look at that. Really outstanding work. Oops. Here we go.
This is Power Trip, the story of energy in 6 episodes. Water, food, wealth, cities, transportation, and war. Join us on a global journey with insights from across the world. Does energy make the world safer or more dangerous? Richer or poorer? We face a future energy crisis that can be avoided if we make the right choices. This is Power Trip, the story of energy.
I think we're all really excited about that. It's going to be great. I know many of you had wonderful questions, and I'm going to take a moment to look through the chat messages and make sure I haven't missed anything. But if you have some new ones that you've considered since watching that clip, or learning more about what's available on the Watt Watchers website, please let us know in the chat box. We'll take a moment, and we will also include the link to the post test. I'm just going to send this out real quick. Let me try that again. Okay, we just sent out the link to the post test. So later today, you'll be receiving an email with the slides that you can refer to. And in the post test as well, we're asking for you to please spell your name as you would like it to be written on your certificate. So if you could please send that as well. Really great questions about the TEKS and linear functions. Thank you so much. I'm going to take a quick look just at the chat feature here. Well, friends, we're so glad that you could join us today. Thank you so much. If you have any other questions, we'll be sticking around till 11. But if you could go ahead and put those questions, if you've got them, in the chat feature, we would be so glad to help you with that. And if you could please also include your answers for the post test as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.